Today, we're going to learn one of the most important ideas in mathematics, the Pythagorean Theorem. This theorem explains the relationship between the three sides of a right triangle. Once you understand it, you can find missing side lengths and solve many geometry problems. Let's begin with the triangle itself. What you see is a right triangle. A right triangle is a triangle that contains one right angle, which means an angle that measures 90 degrees. You can recognize the right angle because it is marked by a small square in the corner. Now let's name the three sides of this triangle. The two sides that touch the 90-degree angle are called the legs. One leg is labeled the variable a. The other leg is labeled the variable b. The third side is called the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the side across from the 90-degree angle, and it is always the longest side of the triangle. We label it the variable c. So in a right triangle, A and B are the legs, and C is the hypotenuse. Now here's the relationship between those three sides. The Pythagorean theorem states, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This formula describes how the side lengths of any right triangle are connected. To understand why this works, imagine drawing a square on each side of the triangle. One square sits on side A, another square sits on side B, and a third square sits on the hypotenuse C. Each square has an area. The square built on side A has an area called A squared. The square built on side B has an area called B squared. The square built on the hypotenuse has an area called C squared. The key idea is that the area of the square on side A plus the area of the square on side B equals the area of the square on side C. That relationship is exactly what the equation a squared plus b squared equals c squared represents. Now let's look at a numerical example. A well-known right triangle is the 3-4-5 triangle. In this triangle, one leg has length 3, the other leg has length 4, and the hypotenuse has length 5. First, square the two legs. 3 squared equals 9. 4 squared equals 16. Now add those together. 9 plus 16 equals 25. Next, square the hypotenuse. Now let's apply the theorem to find a missing side. Suppose the legs of a right triangle have lengths 5 and 12, and we want to find the hypotenuse. Start with the formula. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Substitute the numbers. C squared equals 5 squared plus 12 squared. Now square each value. 5 squared equals 25. 12 squared equals 144. Add them together, 25 plus 144 equals 169. So c squared equals 169. Take the square root to solve for c. The square root of 169 is 13, so the hypotenuse is 13. Now consider a different situation. Suppose the hypotenuse is 10, one leg is 6, and the other leg is unknown. Start with the equation. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Substitute the values. 6 squared plus b squared equals 10 squared. Square the numbers. 6 squared equals 36. 10 squared equals 100. So the equation becomes 36 plus b squared equals 100. Subtract 36 from both sides. Now we have b squared equals 64. Take the square root. The square root of 64 equals 8. So the missing leg has length 8. To summarize the key ideas, the Pythagorean theorem states that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. In a right triangle, c represents the hypotenuse, the longest side opposite the 90-degree angle. The sides a and b represent the two legs that form the right angle. This theorem only applies to right triangles, and it allows us to find missing side lengths when two sides are known. That is the Pythagorean theorem.